Is data governance still a thing? Today, I'm here with Joe again to discuss about this very, very important topic that is not sexy at all for most of the people, but that's called data governance. And we wanted to debate a bit about this, like data governance has always been something that is really not that easy to implement. I did a big thing, And we talk a lot about data enablement now, more than data governance, because obviously with the rise of GenAI, it requires, like in the companies, we need to be more and more flexible, agile, etc. So I know that's a topic you know by heart, so I think you're the best person to talk about this. But maybe before we start the discussion, can you give us a bit your point of view and the definition you have about like what's data governance versus data enablement? Like, is it really something different or just a wording thing?
Sure. I mean, there's a small difference, but at the end, they complement each other, right? I like to say, so data governance, it's not the most sexiest of the topics. I mean, let's be honest, but let's not scare away our audience. I think we're going to try to make it as fun as we can and interesting, so you want to stick around. And the proof of that is that there was a Gartner survey released a while back, and for 2025, 54% maybe, let's say, of the CDOs interviewed said they're going to invest in, guess what? GenAI.
GenAI, of course.
Of course. But directly under, at 52%, they said they're going to invest in data governance. So maybe not very sexy, but definitely in demand.
Yeah.
It's still there and it's kicking because more than ever, and I think we touched some points on the other episode we did about AI-ready data. You cannot really do proper, ethical, sustainable, effective AI without having a governance in place. Governance, you can define it in different ways. I like to say it's the pain you feel the second time you do an analysis. If you have, again, to go back and ask everyone where is that data from and who's responsible and what's that KPI mean and that field in that table and so on again, and it takes you as much time as you've done it the first time, then probably you want to really have a look at your governance. You probably have an issue with your governance. And in a more scientific or data geeky way is basically governance is the policies, the controls, and the trust, right? Whereas enablement is about empowerment. It's about that action and that agility and flexibility. And they go in pair. They go in pair, right? At the end, we were talking earlier about the family. Imagine, I mean, you have your children. I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and the 3-year-olds just want to play around and break everything. But I cannot forbid him to do everything, right? I cannot forbid him everything. I cannot put the mattresses on the walls and everywhere. But I can make sure that he's in a relatively safe space. So the space, that box, is the governance, right? I can pad the corners of some tables and try to avoid sharp objects here and there and having fires lit in the middle of the living room. So that's my governance. But then inside, he's totally free. He's totally free. Within that space, he's free of doing what he wants, of trying to innovate and discover new things. He's free. And I know if it doesn't work out and he tried to jump out of the couch, right? He's not going to finish at the hospital, right? So that's kind of enablement and governance, how I see it.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit of a branding issue. You know, like data governance, I think we made it, as I was saying at the beginning, really like not sexy at all. And people are like, oh, this is a legal thing. Or usually, actually, it looks like a sort of huge deliverable with rules. And you have like everything about security, everything about ownership, everything about like quality and all of this. So I don't think it was not that actionable. And I think the mistakes a lot of companies do, and I've seen it at my previous clients, and it's like they actually like invest a lot in governance, which is a very good thing. But at the end of the day, what comes out is this long deliverable with only rules. So the employees or the data or the tech people, the employees, they were like, okay, like I can't do anything. There are rules, and usually there are two ways to take this problem. Is like either they can't do anything, or they actually do it in the back and they don't respect the rules, which is really what you don't want to get.
Right?
Exactly, it's counterproductive. So I think there is a good way to do it, and I've discussed it in one of the episodes with I interviewed Amy. She's the CDO of PwC, and she has a lot of like security and like quality, mainly like governance issues actually, and she had a very good advice. It was basically like you have to have this version with all these rules, very strict and very long and very detailed, and all the scenarios mapped, etc. You have to have it, especially because you have to have it as a backup, especially when you work with the data of other companies, etc. But you need to have a very you still need to play in an agile environment. So you need to have a version of the governance that is very easily applicable and usable by the team and your employees, that they understand well. That's the first thing for me. And the second one is like you need more and more with GenAI, by the way, because the rules are changing very quickly. You need to offer a very flexible space to play. Yeah. So you need to make sure that like there are exceptions. People can test things. Otherwise you kill innovation.
Absolutely.
It's the same as, there was this, you probably know, in France, so I'm French, but in France they invest a lot in AI, and there was this thing, like in Europe we regulate a lot. So the big question was like, if we regulate a lot, and let's say in China and the US, they don't regulate, like how are we going to do in this race for innovation? We're going to lose if you regulate too much.
I heard somewhere, the US innovates and Europe regulates.
Which actually is, I understand the question is like, obviously you need to regulate because we are maybe more careful in Europe about the usage of personal data, etc., with GDPR and all the other things. But how can you regulate, but making sure you still support innovation? And at a company, from the company perspective, it's exactly the same. How do you make sure that people in your company, they use AI, they innovate, they create, they are more productive, they create good product, but at the same time, you still make it work in like a safe frame.
Safe place,
so I guess that's the question, right?
That's striking that balance, the right balance between empowerment, guardrails, security, and now more than ever, and I think companies are seeing it. And they're in the statistics I was giving earlier, they see the need of governance, because with AI now, everyone wants to jump on that train, but they know, because in a way they don't fully understand it, so they go with the better safe than sorry approach. So cybersecurity, number one priority, followed by governance in a sense, in a way. So they're doing it. Now the question is, and I would love your thoughts, because I feel like here in the region, because of that, the whole investments and the drive, which is pretty amazing, companies will jump from don't talk anymore about data governance, talk about AI governance, and they'll skip it totally and say, no, we don't do data governance, we do AI governance. I don't know. That's my fear or feeling, and would it be effective?
Yeah, that's a good question, but
What's your thought on that?
It depends, I think, what you put behind AI governance. But to be honest, right now, the way I see it is it's a rebranding, right? I mean, because you still need to check like data storage, data security, data quality, like all of this still exists with AI even more. So, I think it's good if we skip, if I can say, like data governance, because anyway, in this region we were late.
True.
Like I used to work for a consulting company, and when we were comparing the project we have in the region versus what the project they were having in Europe, since like 3-4 years, it was mainly around governance. And here we were still setting up like the basics, actually like building a lot of use cases, etc. But governance was, not all the companies were really like setting up the right data governance frameworks, etc. It was coming. So I think it's a good jump to go to AI governance, but it will still include like the basics, So, but maybe people will be a bit more motivated to set up a frame.
Voilà.
So I think that's a very important point, because
it could
AI
be the carrot in a way. You want to do AI, well, you're going to have to go through this relatively.
Because that's a discussion we had multiple times. But like data, as we call it, like data projects, data everything, data governance, it used to be a very tech topic. So people don't care.
True.
Like they're like, the data project is not my thing. Like if you work in supply chain marketing, it's not your problem. It's a tech problem. It's even sometimes in some companies still an IT problem.
True.
AI is everywhere. So people are like, okay, I want to do AI as a person. I want to do AI in my company. So they're looking into it. So talking about AI is good because people are motivated. people want to actually jump into this AI world. So if branding it as AI governance, and obviously there are differences because you need to be more agile than before, you need to have frameworks that evolve very quickly, etc. So there are differences, but when you brand things with AI, I think it's more effective as well because, people find it very exciting. So they'll go into this, and it's very important. And as well, if I may, there is fear, a lot of fear about AI. Today, we're like, okay, I put my data into ChatGPT. Where is it going?
Where's it going?
So
the
companies
black box
are like,
effect,
exactly,
is stronger than ever.
So I think people are a bit more conscious about the importance of a frame.
Absolutely, I agree. And then comes the challenge you mentioned. It's great if organization now will see that their teams might have appetite for governance, but it's up to them not to break the momentum, right? Because, I mean, you can go and define your governance, your policies, everything, have very fancy slides from fancy consultants.
Yeah.
But if it's not digestible by those same people who want to use AI and want to abide by the governance, forget about it. You won't get any adoption, and it will remain a very nice document in your drawer, and it will never get applied. So, and that's one of the biggest struggle actually we see is how do I operationalize my governance? And you mentioned, you touched a point on that. So how do I operationalize the governance? And often also they define roles and responsibilities. They're very high level. It's very easy. And even today with GenAI, you can define that, right? But taking it lower down, one level down, which is at the operation on a day-to-day, if I define your role as a data product manager or a data steward, okay, but how do you take it down to the day-to-day? The activities, the KPIs, the incentives, right? And we talked about enablement. How does that role change as well? Is it only a data steward equals a police? Or is the coach, right? Should be more maybe of a coach today to work with the business. Say, don't worry, I'm not here to police you. I'm here to work together and help you and increase the literacy as well, right? So again, it changed. It evolves. There's different ways where companies need to look at that, but the operationalization of it to keep those employees that are motivated still hooked and keep implementing that governance, I think is key.
Yeah, but it's a big challenge because when you see today, so we're still at the beginning, and I'm sure in 6 months our conversation will look ridiculous because it will be completely different. But I see like 3 types of scenarios. I see the companies today, when it comes to AI only, or GenAI actually, not AI, regenerative AI, there are companies that are like, okay, you know what? I let everyone in my company test whatever they want. I don't cut any access. I don't mind. Let them innovate. Let them use ChatGPT, etc. That's scenario number 1. Number 2 is like, I block everything. You cannot access on your professional laptop. You cannot access your
we've seen that.
ChatGPT. We've seen that a lot. And the third one is like, okay, I will actually provide them the right tools, the enterprise infrastructure, etc., so they can use it in a safe way. And I see a lot of scenario 1 and 2. And scenario 1 has its own risks because you don't know what people are doing. Correct. If you work in an industry where if you actually use like very sensitive data, etc.
Exactly, banking, for example.
Exactly, it's a bit dangerous. Scenario 2 for me is really like counterproductive because the people who work in this, they're still motivated to use AI, so they use it on their personal laptops, etc. So it's even more dangerous. Yeah. And
bring your own AI now.
Exactly.
Bring your own device. Bring your own AI.
And that's not good. See, like for example, we were having this discussion with people who work in consulting. I used to like even years ago, when there was no AI, I used to have clients in Saudi. They had no right to like send documents by email or something like that. So they were using their personal email.
Wow.
But it doesn't work. It means the rule is not cool. Doesn't work because
it's not relevant. Right?
If it blocks you too much, then you'll find a way actually to So it doesn't work. So I guess the challenge is today to try to see where the risks are for your company. So it's a lot about obviously security, storage. It's a lot about this, but it can be as well about copyright if you work in creation, etc. So what are the key risks? Try to frame them as much as you can, but then still. The big challenge, and this is why you will have more and more people actually managing this type of roles, and we need to recruit people who have this responsibility, like to work in governance 100%, because in 2 months you'll have different challenges, in 3 months you'll have different challenges, so you have to stay very, very, very agile and it's new.
True.
Because in all this legal and framing work, we're not agile, so it's a very new thing. So maybe it's like different people who are going to work on this. So I don't have the answer on. For example, I'm not going to ask you what's the perfect governance today. There is no answer, but I think the good practice is to build a good base that is usable by people, so understandable by any type of profiles. And it has to be agile, and you need to very, very often rethink and rebuild the rules. I don't know what you think about this.
100%. I think you're totally right. You need to align your governance with your business reality and your business goals. So in the example of the emails, there's definitely a disconnect, right? It's way too much security, but your teams needed, or those teams needed to send emails and specific attachments. Then that means there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
So align it with your goals. Make sure it answers the need. You mentioned KPI and measurement. The way we actually our framework of at Abgar of implementing data governance is a circle.
Yeah.
Because you need to iterate. You need to iterate. Again, it's not a one-time exercise. Going back to the PowerPoints that stay in a drawer. Go fast, start small, look at the business goals, look at your use case as well. Even have a use case driven approach, right? Look at the use case. What kind of data governance I need for that use case? Okay, I need one steward, one owner. I need these data sets. Okay, I need this catalog. Let's check it. Let's look at the metadata of that data set, and let's have the full chain end to end. And I need the policies around that, and then you're done. You started with a small brick, but it's impactful and it's aligned with your use case. So start small, iterate, measure continuously, define the KPIs, what success looks like for the governance, right? If no one's sending emails anymore, that's not a success criteria, right?
Yeah.
And gamify it. I think gamify it. Try to make it fun again, as much as weird it sounds, but it can be fun. It can be fun, especially surfing on the AI hype now. There's something definitely we can do there to make it fun and exciting again.
Yeah. And there are ways as well probably to show value of it. I guess, I don't know if you've seen that around you, but like how, obviously there is this hype of AI, so people get excited, but how do you get them excited about respecting the rules? That's a question I often ask, and not many people have the answer. It's like, how do you make sure people respect the rules? They can be very agile, etc. Fine, but like, how do you make sure they respect it? I think, my conviction is that people need to be trained and need to understand and 100%. Need to understand the risks, etc. And like, because you have this, like when you own the company, it's like your baby, so you'll be careful. When it's like a super difficult job and you work a lot, and actually, you know what? If I break the rule, but it helps me save 2 hours during my day, I just don't care. Yeah. So there is I think a big topic about
literacy.
Yeah. And about education and making sure that people understand the why, and that is as well, I think, a big challenge, and it's quite new as well.
I agree. We always say, define the purpose of your data, define how you're going to control or take care of that data with the governance, and then define your literacy program so you can explain. They can understand why you're doing this and why you're doing it that way and why it's important. They go hand in hand, right? You're totally right.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just to sum up, but I guess now it used to be a sort of one-way exercise, as you were saying, like you build
push from IT team.
As a leader, you need to understand the needs of your team in terms of innovation, in terms of usage, etc., to make sure that you retain them, first of all, and that they respect the rules you're going to build. And on the employee side, you need to make sure that you understand, they need to understand why it's being set up like this, why there are tools that you can use or not, why there are rules, why... For example, you will have an internal GPT that is a bit less good than ChatGPT, but why is it still important to use this one, etc., etc. So I think now it becomes a very, like a both ways exercise. It has to stay very agile. There needs to be a lot of transparency and communication around this.
Totally.
And I think that's the very new thing about governance, and happy to call it AI governance.
Why not? Why not? If it works.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered a lot of the topics. I think
work on your governance.
Work on your governance. Take care of your governance. Yeah. No, but I think governance is a priority, but then reinventing how we do things, breaking down silos and work collaboratively, I think that's going to be the key.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Margot.